Thanks very much. And it's nice to be back. What I'm here to talk about today, how many people in the room have heard of AXA before you got the invitation from? All right, great. So it's never good when the title of your presentation is AXA the best kept financial secret, and the title of your job is brand management. Hopefully this will change, but in reality, that was the situation that I entered a year and a half ago when I took the job at AXA. As many of you may know, it's a massive global brand, but really no presence or a very low profile in the US. So the case I'm going to show you today is about the AXA campaign that we did. It started February 3rd, and it's really, so many people think of that as the starting, the starting line for the brand in the United States. So we did a case. We did extensive research. So I hope everybody can see. Put your glasses on. Lots of charts, because I'm going to set up the situation for you. So take a look.
We're out here trying to find out if people know about AXA. Could you pronounce what's in the logo?
AXA?
AXA?
That's great.
We have AXA Belgium, in fact.
AXA.
AYA.
AXA. Do you know the name of this company?
AXA.
What TV show are you usually on?
Late show with David Leonard.
No big deal.
AXA.
I see AVA, but I'll say AVA.
AXA?
AXA.
AXA.
You have any idea what AXA stands for? AXA? What's that? He says not a clue.
I feel really ignorant right now, but I know I don't.
It's an airline, maybe?
Insurance.
We've got a winner.
Yeah, we have one in New Zealand.
It must be finance if it's here.
I have assurance in AXA, my drive. Yeah.
Where are you from?
I'm from Paris.
Ooh.
I already have AXA.
Stop.
Yes,
For what?
for financial investments.
I love AXA. I never.
You'll all love AXA by the time we're through today. But, that really is the situation. There's obviously a lot of quant behind that, but we have a really low awareness in the United States. Globally, on the other hand, this is a slide that tells you we have 102 million customers. We do business in 60 countries, 157,000 employees all over the world, and almost $100 billion in net income. And also, AXA globally has been named the #1 brand in insurance for the 5 years running, including this year. So very, very different situation. Also, globally, in terms of our business, what do we sell? You can see down the left-hand column, there's that kind of cradle-to-grave set of offerings in financial services, specifically insurance, though. So the bookends of this really reflect the global business, and the middle piece reflects the U.S. business. So P&C, and I know there's other insurance people here in the room, so property and casualty, when the tree falls on your car and things like that, that's the P&C business. We're not in that business in the U.S., but it's a huge piece of our global business, and then health on the other side. We're in the middle in the savings and protection area, a lot of annuities, a lot of retirement. We have our own advisors here in the U.S., proprietary set. But globally, the business model is a little bit different, and that's what we're known for. And to some degree, that's why it is a bigger brand globally than it is in the U.S. So that's the business that we're in. And then if you look at the people, of the 157,000 people all over the world that work for AXA in social responsibility, a very good story here as well, which probably a lot of you don't know. 86% of people have training, a very engaged employee source, 70% engagement, 52-47 ratios, and 32,000 participated in AXA-sponsored charities. We have something called the AXA Research Fund that just funded some climate change stuff here in the U.S. as well. So very socially responsible, probably lots of things that you didn't know about AXA, but is true globally. So the business challenge that we faced, huge global brand. The U.S. is obviously the largest in the world in terms of a market for retirement and protection, but the lowest profile of pretty much any of our competitors. So two ends of those things that we had to put together and begin to have a presence here in the U.S. A lot of what this is based on is in the next few years, You know, 2/3 of the money in the U.S. is still controlled by people that are over 50. The population that's going to be over 60 will double in the next 25 years. I see a lot of them sitting in the audience right now. And this trend that we started to see with the baby boom will continue, and it really pushes towards that third bullet point, which is the industry is so competitive and constantly changing. Everybody sells everything is a huge understatement these days, but something that just happened this week, we do a global brand tracking study, and the people in Paris, where we're based, were very surprised to see MetLife and Pru, the behemoths in the insurance business, replaced in the U.S. by a small Boston company called Fidelity. So it was, who is this Fidelity company? You know, that's what's happening to the market. We all sell everything, and if we keep looking at this as an insurance versus insurance company or financial services and banks, that's where consumers will teach us exactly where they're going to buy things. So to say it's highly competitive is a huge understatement, especially, I think, in the insurance business, which hasn't diversified as well as some of the other financials. So huge business challenge. The customer challenge, life insurance specifically, very low engagement. 50% of the people in this country either don't have it or know they need more. So the issue here is not so much lack of awareness, probably just the opposite. People really do understand that they have lots of choices. People understand what the options are. People here do a lot of research on things. They're online. They're talking to people. They have a lot of advisors, both paid and unpaid, giving them information. But largely, the insurance business is sold on fear. And you can motivate people to action through fear, easy enough, but you can't motivate people to a relationship with a financial services company through fear. So we looked at that and said, we need to motivate people through a positive action. We need to get them to act. We need to move them from paralysis they're at. But we didn't want to do it through fear, so we wanted to separate ourselves out. The other thing that we found in the research is people feel like they need to feel like they're making progress in their finances. If you get stuck, you need to keep moving. And the action itself relieves anxiety. That was a lot of the insight that we found that led to the positioning that I'm going to show you in a minute. And finally, many of you probably well know, purchase price and brand familiarity, the top two drivers in what we sell, and probably the two things that we are not as competitive on. We're a premium priced provider, and we don't necessarily have any brand awareness or familiarity. So from a customer perspective, again, those were the challenges. So when we set out to develop a positioning that we could create for ourselves here in the U.S., we understood that there was information overload. Everybody had too many choices. There were too many people telling them what to do. And they had real needs. Nobody needs an annuity. You know, they need to have a comfortable retirement. Nobody needs life insurance. They just want to protect their families. So we thought it was important for us to separate ourselves out from the competition. The quote that you see there is what we found over and over again in the quant and the qual. I know I need to do something, I just don't know what to do next. So whether you're a sophisticated investor, whether you're just starting out, whether you're in the middle, we found this to be the transcendent insight to customers in terms of what we sold. And we kind of shortened this up to simplicity, clarity, and action is what we wanted to motivate. But we wanted to hit all of these insights. And the positioning statement is AXA breaks down your big financial decisions into small, manageable steps. And if you've seen any of the creative or gone on our website, you can see that that thought is embedded into pretty much everything we do now. And the reason I think people feel that this is a benefit is we talk to a lot of customers, and it's compared to things that you're trying to do, taking the action relieves a great anxiety. The longer you don't do something, the more the anxiety builds, and that was the emotional benefit that we were really going after. Also, breaking down big financial decisions, you know, rarely will somebody move all their money to a new provider, but they will take a step toward that and to build a relationship. So we wanted to get the momentum going on the relationship, and that was the core, that was the essence of where AXA is going to plant the flag here in the U.S. This is, again, this is driven by the business strategy. We're largely a wholesaler, so we sell through banks and wirehouses and We have a proprietary set of advisors, but we want to be a retail business, and we want to be a more digitally based business just like everybody else. So we need a strong brand to do that. We have a great sales machine, but we need a marketing machine to complement that. We will in the future probably be diversifying what we sell, potentially through acquisitions or expansion of products. And again, we want to leverage the global brand equity that we do have that you all saw. And so one of the other things we did was we changed our name. You might have been familiar with the old name. It was AXA Equitable, or you might have even been familiar with Equitable. But we changed our name as well back to simplicity, clarity, and action. It's just a much easier name to understand. It's much better in digital. It's much better in search. It's much better in email, no hyphens. So it's not so much a advertising campaign as it is a customer strategy. And then finally, you know, whether you're going to buy from us, whether you're going to sell for us as an intermediary, or you're going to work for us, we want to make sure this message worked in all of those areas. So we simplified our brand identity at the bottom of the page there. You can see the AXA Equitable and Redefining Standards tagline back to AXA. We did an advertising campaign I'm going to show you. And then, of course, you know, advertising is a piece of it, but customer experience is probably the most important thing to deliver on. So we had to raise our unaided awareness, which is 2% right now in the U.S. We had to raise the aided awareness, which is around 20, as compared to like a Pru or a MetLife, which is around 80 or 90. We had to define the businesses we're in, so you can know who AXA is. Name recognition's great, but unless you know what it is we sell, so that was the other thing we had to do. And we also had to plant the flag for small, manageable steps. So I think the easiest way to show you is there are 2 television spots.
We all think about life insurance, but when we start worrying about tomorrow, we miss out on the things that matter today. At AXA, we offer advice and help you break down your insurance goals into small, manageable steps. Because when you plan for tomorrow, it helps you live for today. Can we help you take a small step? For advice, retirement, and life insurance, connect with AXA. We all have to plan for retirement. But when we start worrying about tomorrow, we miss out on what matters today. At AXA, we offer advice and help you break down your retirement goals into small, manageable steps. Because when you plan for tomorrow, it helps you live for today. Can we help you take a small step? For advice, retirement, and life insurance, connect with AXA.
So from the perspective of letting the customers give voice to the need here, that's where we were going with this. Very different than where we had been. We had been very product oriented. You know, we're trying to get the message across that just a small thing can make a huge difference in your life and in your financial life. But also, you'll see advice, retirement, and life insurance on everything. Because again, you saw in the first video, when we went out and asked people, just showed them AXA, we got people saying airline. We had people saying, you know, that body spray everybody uses. You'd be very surprised at what the first thing they said was, but it certainly wasn't advice, retirement, and life insurance. So we had to plaster that all over everything. And we're seeing from the research that that's coming through. Probably unlike everyone in the room, we never had an 800 number. We never had the ability to gather leads online. And so all that infrastructure had to be built. The branch system is good, but the common infrastructure was not. I'm going to just show you some of the media highlights. We obviously don't have a budget like some of the bigger competitors that we face. So our strategy here was we tripled the proportion of digital media against our total budget and against the absolute numbers of our competition, for the key people that we compete with. But we didn't have as much money, so we had to kind of zig when everybody else was zagging. And we launched on the Olympics, which tended to work out great for us, both from traditional media and digital media perspective, is great engagement. But we really needed to gather awareness and reach right away. We had to have this campaign work hard for us, so we popped through on the Olympics. And hopefully you've seen some of the work. So the media was very effective. A lot of it over-delivered. We used Olympics, we used sports, financial, lifestyle, some of the typical things that you see. But I think it was put together. Our media agency is Havas, and our creative agency is Publicis, and they work together very well on the launch. I'll show you some of the other things we did to break through. And it wasn't all just targeted to consumers or to advisors. We targeted a lot to the employees and the different places that they work. So there's 6 major centers where we have employees. We thought it was really important for us to make sure the employees saw the advertising. So some of the stuff you're going to see in these next clips, especially the out-of-home, were put around where employees would go to work every day. And it made a huge difference in terms of the way they digested the campaign and the way they felt about work. We used a lot of roadblocks on things like Bloomberg.com, especially that's where the advisors and the consumers overlap. We got great impact from things like that. And let me show you what the print and then some of the digital properties look like. Any of you guys see any of that advertising? I know you didn't see the out-of-home, some of the TV or any of the print. One guy? 2? Okay. Yeah. They made a huge impact. You know, the New York Times came and covered it, and, you know, for the amount of money that we paid for it, it had a huge impact. And Rock Center is where our headquarters is, so everybody comes up through that station, and the path is where our Jersey City office is. So every single day while this campaign ran for a couple months, I think it changed the way thousands of people went to work every day. And we continue to do it. Even those billboards, we have operating centers in Charlotte, Syracuse, and when you don't have a brand presence and you work for a company and you go to a cocktail party and someone says, where do you work? And it's 10 minutes before you finish the answer to the question, there's a kind of a relief for the employees as well, and a pride that goes with that. So you never know what the small things are that are going to make a big impact. Those did for us. And that was two agencies that don't work together came up with that idea together. So hats off to those guys. And the advertising campaign, I think, is very human and modern and all the things that the global brand mandates for us. But it's a piece of it. And we didn't have a customer infrastructure. And we didn't have a website that actually would reflect that. So we had to change all those infrastructure pieces as well for February. The experience is what matters. We drove a lot of demand, but we had to make sure that when you got to the AXA touch points, it reflected that. So. Specific, I'm going to show you a couple slides in addition to the steps and the things that we did for employees externally. We did a lot internally. We actually created a employee campaign called What's Next. And the idea here of this visual, that red switch is obviously an important part of our corporate identity, putting the employee kind of into the picture graphically. This was all new to everybody inside the company, and they didn't understand that they had a role in creating a brand here in the U.S. And what that role was, we described and defined for them. So we have an intranet, and it's a global site, which is called One. And we built a brand community on that. We were the #1 trafficked site in the U.S., and we're also the #4 trafficked site all over the world for AXA in terms of engaging our employees in this initiative. We have brand advocate sessions. We took 60 managing directors and trained them on the brand, and each one of them gave 3 presentations in face-to-face meetings, which I think was an incredible commitment by senior management, but it showed everybody how important that this was, and everybody gets their job explained to them through this filter. So those were a couple of the things that we did internally for training and FAQs, and the website is very interactive. We also held 2 days before the public launch an 8,000-person simulcast, webcast to all the advisors as well as every employee in the United States out of the New York headquarters. And we sent senior management all to all different places and held a launch meeting all at once. And again, I think people reacted to that they understood the importance of this. It had never been done before. There'd never been a corporate meeting in the U.S. where every single person was invited to attend. So the importance of that, I think, led to a really cohesive launch execution. Started February 3rd. We're also getting results in now, both on brand awareness and contacts and numbers of phone calls and the feedback from the employees. One of the most important things that any company with a proprietary advisor staff will tell you is, or will ask you is, what do the advisors think? Because they are the driving part of the business. If the advisors like it, it will work. So we put together a clip. I could tell you what they said, or I could just kind of let them tell you what they think about this. And these are some of our key advisors out of New York.
You know, we walk past the Fidelity ads and the Schwab ads all the time.
So it was very exciting to see AXA being advertised along with the other household names.
And we can finally put the brand image and the values of the company to as many people as possible.
It made me feel proud to work at AXA because it made us seem sort of relevant again.
It was really neat to see the company that we already love displayed in such a nice way.
I think it can only help. You know, brand recognition is one of the most important things, especially for financial advisors.
I always tell people that we were the largest company that you may have never heard of.
Well, now when you're calling either some prospects or customers, they tend to know who is AXA finally.
For the most part, anybody who has seen them has had positive comments.
Feedback on the campaign has been great, especially with the Rockefeller Center domination as well as the steps in Penn Station, being that most of my clients are in this area.
My clients have loved the ads. Some of my actor clients want to be in the next one, if that's possible.
I've already had people reach out to me and say that they've seen the commercials.
I had people texting and calling every time they saw the new ads. Every time one of my friends walks up the AXA stairs, they send me a picture.
Brand recognition has been very low up to date, so I think these commercials are really going to help out with that.
Having them there for clients and prospects to see can only help us. It's really about getting the AXA name out there, making people aware of how strong, how reputable a company we are.
It certainly is helpful when you have a name brand, a global brand behind you.
The campaign will help with my business, specifically when we're in competitive situations where we're pitted against another company. And the customer may go with the other company just because they've heard of them more often and they've seen their campaigns.
The campaign will definitely help grow my business. It already has, being that every time I go into these unions now and I show them the AXA card, it resonates with them.
Having people say, I know your company and I know you're a great company, instead of me showing them, but having them come in knowing it, I think is just going to attract talent.
I think the marketing campaign that we're doing now pretty much specifies what we do as an organization. Retirement, life insurance, planning. So it'll just make it that much easier when we have that first conversation with the client. They'll know what we do and what company we represent.
So now that we have that presence, I think it'll be a lot easier for us to close more business.
So that's the end of the presentation. Does anyone have questions? Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Well, I have two, actually. I'll start with the second one. What in your insights led you to define the fact that you wanted an emotional reaction to the brand? How did you pull that out?
One of the things we know about the global brand is that it's a very rationally based brand. That the people even in the rest of the world that know AXA, it's very rational, it's very product oriented. So one of the global mandates was we have to make this company human, and I think we led that in the U.S. with creating an emotional component. I think it just works better as well, so people will remember. I think we still have a very high hill to climb in terms of the brand here in the U.S., and I think people will remember a little bit better, but it was a corporate mandate, and I think it was a U.S. mandate as well. A good question, yeah.
Given some of the comments early on about people not knowing what AXA was there any part of the whole advertising marketing effort, was there a discussion in terms of redoing the corporate logo?
There wasn't, because the name AXA is new, relatively new. It's only 15 years old. It was a company that was put together through acquisition. So it was one of these names where it's the same backwards and forwards. It doesn't mean anything in any language and all of those things. So that the graphic is relatively new all over the world. So we're kind of in the first phase of becoming consistent before they change it. And has anyone ever changed the name of a company? Yeah, so I know it's a bunch of ants running around and there's hundreds of thousands of things to change. So
I didn't necessarily mean changing the name of it as much as reworking the AXA so people had a clearer.
So you can read it?
Read it, yeah.
Why do you want to read it? Wow, it's a tough crowd. Yeah, I think the answer in French and English is no. Yeah.
Relative to agents, and it was a great reel about their reactions, and they obviously felt a lot of pride about how they could close business and about the awareness. How are they measuring the success pre and post the campaign? Like, are they seeing a lift in being able to close business and sales?
Yeah, I think an insurance company is even more rigorous because it's filled with actuaries. I have 10 studies. I have 139 metrics that we're running this campaign against. It's about 138, too many, but it is being measured on every level from awareness to sales and APE, we call it, premium revenues, income, new customers, new households, new money. So part of having a white sheet of paper in a brand in the U.S. is great. But on the other hand, the expectations of what building a brand can do are probably outsized from the perspective of if a company understands the position and understands what advertising in a brand can do. The expectations on this campaign are huge. So so have we seen demand created? An unbelievable amount of demand, an unbelievable amount of activity. And our issue is that we have to make sure that we have a customer management system that can get those leads out to the field, that can catch the leads coming in from the field and process them fast enough. That's where we are with this campaign after the first flight. Yeah, it's a fulfillment issue, yeah. Sure. Anybody?
One of the more memorable actual advertising campaigns I remember from AXA was the gorilla.
Oh, yeah.
And just what are your thoughts? And obviously, this to me seems like a much more traditional financial services approach. The gorilla was very aggressive, very different. It definitely, in my opinion, made AXA stand out a lot more. It was very memorable. I mean, you guys had a great presence on Twitter, with the gorilla tweeting, things like that. I mean, what are your thoughts on that style? And ultimately, clearly, you decided to retire.
Yeah. We did, and we did it for a couple reasons. It was retired probably 2008. It was a product ad, and it was about guaranteed income from annuities. And we guaranteed 6% income for the life of those products. And the problem with that was, you saw what happened, right? It almost brought down the whole U.S. business. Not to say it was the gorilla's fault, but I think he had a lot to do with it. I think he was setting the interest rates. But I think, when we talk about the gorilla, it was the only thing we had to hang on to at AXA US. It was the only thing that represented our business, and I think it was too narrow. I don't think it reflected truly the company. A lot of this positioning, where this positioning came from, was from senior management. And I think when we were doing the interviews with senior management, one of the things the CEO said that struck a chord was, everybody's talking about volatility and the crash of 2008 and what are we going to do? Everybody started their strategy with that. What do we do? And he made a statement, and he said, at AXA, we're not going to stand still. That's where the positioning came from. So when you look inside the company, this is more who we are. I think that was an external attention-grabbing thing, and it sold a lot of annuities. But I think we needed to move more toward what customers need. So I think, people are finding this. And again, I think that falls into the category of, I think you can probably drive transactions with something like that. But we need to create relationships. So I think stuff like that has a place, but I think this is a foundational piece that we didn't have.
Hi, a couple things. One, my relationship to AXA is long-standing.
Yay.
My first experience as a man was as a college grad working as an intern for the Equitable Invitational Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So it was obviously a very different time where your agents would fly people in and wine and dine them, and lavish events. But my question for you is, now I work in the mobile space. I want to get a sense from you of like, how is and will your mobile strategy evolve? Obviously, Yahoo, a huge player in the mobile space, and it looks like you did some amazing branding for this campaign. So how is mobile going to sort of evolve for you guys as a marketing team?
Yeah, so mobile's the number one corporate mandate out of Paris. The issue we have with mobile, and we've done a lot of mobile work here, and I think that we've beaten all the financial industry benchmarks in everything we did in digital, including mobile, including response rates. And getting people, it still amazes me that people will use their mobile device and actually hit the 188 AXA thing while they're walking down the street. I still think that that's unbelievable, but that's the behavior. Again, the issue with us is uptake on the other side. They need someone to talk to. They need, we are trying to kind of, with the mobile thing, the initiatives include being on your mobile device. There's 5,300 offices in the country. In certain areas, you walk down 6th Avenue and you could walk into 10 offices. We want to bring that to life in mobile. So we want to make the connection between our digital stuff and our offices, because right now, I think a lot of places go through the website, and that's not a great place for us to go because we only distribute through advisors. So from a mobile perspective, it's our number one corporate mandate in the U.S. That's what we're trying to create with mobile activity.
So, just to add on to that, so will mobile then, to your point, will it take on much more sort of an acquisition role as opposed to that overall branding? You know, because I know mobile video is huge, so you can still disseminate a lot of your branding content.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's acquisition, but we have 3.5 million customers in the U.S., which is substantial. So I think it's going to be acquisition and development, because most of our customers, we don't cross-sell very well. We sell them one thing and move on and take their premiums. So I think we have to get better at that, and I think mobile will be at the crux of that as well.
I think one of your slides said that you had 76% of people that were positive on this whole campaign. I think the campaign is amazing.
Thank you.
There was 24% that were positive. What was their thinking?
That's a great question. I think the answer is those were the extremely positives and the somewhat positives, and then I think people are neutral. I think that life insurance companies are long-tenured places, and I think a lot of people ask me still, where's the gorilla? Why don't we do the gorilla, and why are you changing everything? And I think there's some of that, and I think we're a sales-based culture. Why do we need advertising? We have salespeople, and you know how that works, right? It's not either or, it's both, but there are little pockets.
Maybe 76 is the max you can reach.
Maybe.
Basically 100%.
Yeah, maybe, but I think I think there are pockets of we've done this the same way for a long time. This is really new. It's not new to a lot of people in this room and the companies, but it is very new for AXA to be out there and spending money. Yeah. And that's the funny piece about it. You'd think everybody would love it. What's not to love? But there's always pockets of people that need to be convinced they like the way things run now, and there's no reason to change. So, but good question.
So I think we have time for one more question.
Gretel?
So I'm just assuming this is like phase 1, the launch.
Me too.
So, one of the biggest problems is, companies come in, they spend a lot of money, they have that, and they're like, so management says, how are you going to keep those momentum? And I can't imagine you saying, oh, we're going to go into maintenance mode.
Yep.
So what is the next phase?
So the next phase, so the campaign is a 3-year investment, and that's been approved, and it's approved by the corporate entity, but it's funded by the U.S. business. So like everybody else in the room, this investment, because it's substantial, gets reviewed every 6 months. So it's kind of crazy. It's running a marathon, in a series of 100-yard dashes, right? But we are off to a great start. But again, we get reviewed every 6 months on this investment. It doesn't seem right in this room. A brand is a commitment, but again, it's new to AXA. So they're looking at it like any kind of investment. What's my ROI after 6 months? So it has to be a commitment. I think anywhere else in the world, in the rest of the 59 countries, when you get off a plane in Paris or you go to London, AXA's everywhere. It's on everyone's soccer jerseys. And you've seen it probably before, but you didn't know what it was as an American. And they are big proponents of this. So I think while we're working on the U.S. brand here, we're actually working on adding equity to the global brand and leading a lot of things. The bottom line issue is this is the biggest retirement and protection market in the world, and AXA Corporate won't grow unless we grow here. That's the bottom line of this investment, and I think that's what that opportunity is going to be at the end of the day, what decides if we keep going.
Thanks, Beth.